I'm Marje Albohm, a proud graduate of Indiana State University, and really happy to share a little time with you and to be a part of this great mentoring program. I think the thing I've always believed about ISU and its faculty has been the innovation that they always introduce to student experiences. And I think this is an example of that. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am and my background. Um, I was one of the first women to be certified by the NATA, and I actually did take the certification exam. Glad I took it then and not now because it's much more difficult now. But I took it and passed it on my first try and became a certified athletic trainer. I did my undergraduate work at Valparaiso University, good liberal arts education. And when I was looking for graduate school, my advisor said, "Gosh, there's a there's a field called athletic training." And I said, "Well, tell me about athletic training." And she said, "Well, I was a field hockey player and a basketball player. When I sprained my ankle, like every athlete has injuries. And my coach said, we'll have the men's athletic trainer take a look at you." And I'm like, well, who's an athletic trainer? And why is there a men's athletic trainer? And Rod Moore, who was probably my first introduction to athletic training, who just recently retired from Valparaiso University, maybe a year or two ago. Rod was the athletic trainer who treated me, rehabbed my ankle, got me back to playing. And I took my first care and prevention class from Rod at Valpo as not an official student in the class, but I could observe and take part. So at that time, there were only two approved graduate programs in the country for athletic training. And that's really hard to believe, I know, based on the number of undergrad, grad curricula we have today. Arizona, University of Arizona, and Indiana State University. And the University of Arizona did not accept women. And I know that's another crazy thing to think about today. So I came to Indiana State, and I'm not sure they knew they had just accepted a woman, but it was a phenomenal experience. And some of the great leaders that established the athletic training program at Indiana State over the years, Mel Blickenstaff, Ray Baggett, just integrated me into all of the programs, all of the education, and all of our coursework was, of course, coeducational. However, at that time, the women's athletics was separate from the men's athletics. So my clinical experience was with women's athletics and under the direction of grad assistant Holly Wilson Green, who is, again, still active in the association and comes to annual meetings. So that's kind of my entry into athletic training. Following my graduate school, I did a interim faculty position at Concordia College, now Concordia University in River Forest, where I taught, I coached, I was an athletic trainer, and then ended up at Indiana University as the first full-time women's athletic trainer in their sports medicine department, and also had a teaching assignment in Hyper. So my background in the NATA as a volunteer started very early in my career, as I hope that you're inspired to do the same. Started as a district secretary, district director, first chair of the reimbursement advisory group, now a different name, past president of the Research and Education Foundation, and honored to serve as NATA president from 2008 to 2012, and a proud and honored inductee into the NATA Hall of Fame in 1999. So my conversation with you today is about leadership and kind of segueing into managing conflict, because I think you need really strong leadership skills to manage conflict effectively. And conflict is part of our lives personally, professionally, probably in every aspect of our life and existence has some type of conflict. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The attributes that I believe are really that make effective leaders are communication. A leader has a vision. A leader has a goal. A leader has something that they aspire to accomplish or achieve or move forward. A leader has to get other people on their team. You have to have other people who believe in your passion, your goal, the initiative that you're pursuing. I believe an effective leader is transparent, listens, understands other people's perspective, is patient, is passionate, enthusiastic, and driven to accomplish that goal. And everybody's style is so different. I believe personally I bring passion and enthusiasm as a leader. And hopefully in the time that I've served in leadership, have been able to inspire others to achieve the goal that I'm pursuing or be passionate leaders for their own goals. I think a leader definitely has an agenda, and I think somehow the word agenda has gotten a really bad connotation where it's not at all. We all have agendas, and a leader has to have an agenda, has to have a clear path on how we're going to get from here to there. How are we going to achieve that goal? And the important thing in having an agenda is being transparent with it. So everybody understands all aspects of the project, of the initiative, and there's open communication and discussion without. There's so many effective leaders that I've worked with in my career. When I'm thinking about who would I name as a really effective leader on a national and international stage, you have a Martin Luther King, you have a Mahatma Gandhi, you have people that are inspiring and are pursuing their goal and trying to make the world a better place. On a professional level, probably my first team position at Indiana University, Merrill Ritter was a mentor and great leader in his profession and in sports medicine, and brought me along with so many of the projects and initiatives that he was pursuing. When you look at the NATA, during my presidency and most of my volunteering in the NATA, I worked closely with Eve Becker-Doyle. Eve was the former executive director of the NATA for many years. She was a phenomenal leader and really managed a lot of different individuals, different volunteers, different situations that I saw her in very, very effective leadership. And I believe looking at our NATA past presidents, all of them, and including current President Tory Lindley, who I believe is a very effective leader, and I think we'll see that in his term as president of the NATA, and he'll accomplish great things for us. Leadership is it's a lifetime experience. Just when you think you've got it, you realize that, whoa, I need to go back to school on this one. And leadership is built on a variety of personal experiences that you have. So early in my career, when I was certified, that was the first wave of Title IX. So female athletes were just entering the playing fields in courts. Women's athletics at that time was not part of the NCAA. There was an association called the AIAW. The AIAW governed women's athletics at the collegiate level. And I experienced and was privileged to be around such great women leaders who forged that association, who wrote rules and playing guidelines and standards for women's athletics and prioritized healthcare for female athletes, prioritized sports medicine, and immediately established a sports medicine committee, of which I was honored to lead, to set up, again, safe rules and regulations that made the athletic experience safe for women. The questions that people were asking then, and again, another like, wow, hard to believe, right? Is it safe for women to be athletes? Are there injuries that are different with girls and women? And these are true stories. You know, if basketball is a contact sport and a woman gets hit in the chest, is that a precursor to breast cancer? In gymnastics, on the uneven parallel bars, the pounding in the pelvic area, is that potential damage to reproductive organs? These were the questions that were being asked then. And as a young athletic trainer and other women athletic trainers, our task was to prove that yes, athletics is safe for girls and women, that it's not the gender that creates a different injury, it's the sport activity. So track and field athletes are going to have different injuries than soccer players, than gymnasts, but it's not the gender, it's the sport activity. So we were documenting injuries at a very basic level, and fortunately concluded that athletics was very safe and beneficial for girls and women as it was and is for boys and men. So in those early leadership experiences, I observed some great leaders, and I had a chance to practice leadership, right? Because you have to practice. You have to find the style that works for you. Not everybody's style is the same, but by being present to the observation of different styles of leadership is how you really learn. Yes, there are so many books on leadership, and I encourage you to find great ones and read them all, because each one will bring a little different something to your developing your leadership toolbox. There's some great thought leaders on leadership, and Google it and you'll find hundreds of resources. And that truly is an important aspect of developing your leadership skills. But as I said, it's also really important to observe others informally. Say, what makes that person effective in their leadership? Is that a style or a trait that I want to use? What, based on my personality, would make me an effective leader? And it is trial and error. So, as I said, it's a lifelong process. And once you've gone through so many leadership experiences, and you think you've got it, then in my case, I get elected to be NATA president. And I was the last 4-year president. I had two years. The current term is 1 3-year. So I did have some chances to practice my leadership skills at that level. And I think after all the experiences I had, there were so many that were still unexpected in trying to lead a 10-member board. At that time, they were all men. So I missed some of that conversation that happened in the men's room that I wasn't privy to outside of board meetings. And the balance of the board now is much different. Leading initiatives that were really important to our association, and also very difficult for the membership sometimes to be on the side of favoring it, whether it's a dues increase, whether it's a name change, whether it's a professional degree change. So dealing with board, with volunteers, with staff, and with the general membership was a great, great leadership experience. Um, some things I might have done differently. I learned to be very patient, not a trait that comes naturally to me. I learned to listen because a good leader listens, listens to what the group is saying, to what the people on your team are saying, to the people that you're trying to lead. Listen to what they're saying. Patience and listening so you really understand um, where those people are coming from and what their interests are. So, and it continues to be a lifetime journey for me in my current role with OSER Americas as Director of Education and Fellowships, working with international people where cultures are different and styles are different. So leadership has to be adjusted sometimes. So as young professionals and as people that are ready to enter the world to be strong, effective leaders. However, I believe that journey has started for you already and probably started even before you were university students. Um, how do you get these experiences? What's the best way for you to develop your leadership, and what are the best opportunities? Uh, Definitely student experiences, any place you can volunteer will enhance leadership skills and let you practice those skills. State association, athletic training state associations are a great learning ground to, again, learn, observe, and practice your leadership skills. Certainly at the district level and national level, there is no boundary to what you can achieve as future leaders. And I think one of the things that really resonates with me and that I want you to remember is always believe that one person can make a difference as a leader. One person, and that person could and should be you. I can give you hundreds of examples of that, but a couple really stick out in my mind. Elaine Winslow. Elaine is the head athletic trainer for Madison Square Garden Enterprises, the New York City Rockettes. Elaine was a former Rockette. So when I first met Elaine, so I'm originally from upstate New York, and Radio City was always a great family thing over the holidays, and the Rockettes. So one of the first times I met Elaine, Elaine is like, "Oh, Marge, I've heard so much about you. You're so important to the association. I'm honored to meet you." I'm like, "Elaine, great, thank you. What do you do? Where are you?" She said, "I'm a New York City Rockette." And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're a New York City Rockette." Like a dream of my life to actually meet a New York City Rockette. And we laugh about that a lot today. But Elaine, there was no sports medicine. There was no athletic training for the Rockettes. And when Elaine approached James Dolan, the owner of Madison Square Garden Enterprises, and he still is, Mr. Dolan said, "Elaine, you're wasting your time. These people are not athletes." Well, that's all you had to say to Elaine Winslow, who's a New Yorker. And fast forward, there are 5 full-time athletic trainers in Radio City Music Hall when the Rockettes are in season. As they put on, I think, 6 shows a day from Thanksgiving to the end of Christmas. When the Rockettes go on tour, there are certified athletic trainers with them on every tour. And every one of those women today know they are athletes, are treated like athletes, and are provided the best health care that Elaine and her team can provide. And President James Dolan keeps expanding Elaine's athletic training room in Radio City, keeps sending her more equipment, more rehab equipment. So one person makes a difference. Another great story, Marty Matney. Marty was just became a Hall of Fame member in New Orleans this year. Fabulous man, fabulous induction. Love to see great people become members of the Hall of Fame. So Marty started an industrial athlete program at Boeing. So Boeing Boeing makes airplanes. There are only two airplane manufacturers in the world, Airbus, which is a French company, and Boeing. So several years ago, Marty and the company WorkFit, which contracts athletic trainers to industry, actually started at Central Michigan University, another District 4, great leadership with Ken Kopke and Ron Sendry, that knew athletic trainers should be in industry because there are musculoskeletal injuries with industrial workers. So Marty and WorkFit said to Boeing, we can reduce your injuries, your employee injuries. We can reduce your work comp claims. We can reduce your lost time from work if you put athletic trainers into your plants. Give us a year demonstration project. We'll show you. Fast forward 6 months into the project, Boeing says, we believe you. We believe you. We got this. Amazing. Today, 36 athletic trainers are employed at the Boeing main assembly plant in Everett, Washington state. And when Boeing opened an assembly plant in Charleston, South Carolina, 10 athletic trainers are employed there now. One person makes a difference. And one last example, which is so meaningful to me. I think it was maybe 2 years ago now. 3 graduate students at Indiana State University contacted me and said that they really had a passion for seeing that the LGBTQ interests and community were adequately represented within the NATA. And although the NATA had and has an ethnic and diversity committee, they weren't exactly sure that that group fit in that category. And they asked me to help them kind of navigate the waters on how to present a proposal, how to get advocates to support that. They weren't asking me to do it. They were asking me for just some suggestions to navigate. I was inspired, absolutely inspired by their passion for their idea. And fast forward, that committee does exist today because of those 3. Leadership. Leadership evidence is around you everywhere, and learn from those experiences and be inspired by those experiences and be one of those people who makes a difference. So that leads me into the next topic I want to touch on, which is managing conflict. So as I said earlier, in leadership, you have to be able to manage conflict. And I think today's political climate has really made me focus a little more on managing conflict, or conflict itself, because I'm very aware that people on the other side of an opinion that I have feel as strongly about their opinion as I do about mine. And there lies conflict. I'm never going to change their mind. They're never going to change my mind. But we have to come to a place of understanding each other and managing those differences of opinion, or managing that conflict. And I think that's a challenge for everyone, to totally, even if you don't agree, totally respect the position that the other person has. Try to understand, again, listen. Why do they believe the way they do? Why do they feel that way? And how can I learn from them? And how can I help them understand the way I feel? I had some great examples way back when of managing conflict too. So when you say, how do you learn to do that? That's another by experience kind of thing. So back to early days of women's athletics at Indiana University, women's basketball did play on Assembly Hall, the same court that Bob Knight practiced on and played on every day. However, it was Saturday afternoon at like 2:30. So, and followed Coach Knight's practice. So one Saturday we had a game schedule at 2:30, and Coach Knight was practicing earlier in the day, and was supposed to end his practice like at 1 or 1:30. And decided not to end his practice. And his practice went on. The other team came. We were dressed, ready to take the court. The officials were there. The practice went on. Totally ignored that there was a competition going on that everybody had agreed to and was on the schedule. So our women's athletics director, there were women's and men's athletics directors then, came and approached Coach Knight, and he just lost it. Historically his temper, and I watched Leanne manage that, never disrespecting Coach Knight, never raising her voice, calming the situation down, taking him off to the side so it wasn't a spectacle, and having a private conversation that I'm sure was then followed up and addressed on Monday. Coach Knight's team left the floor and we started our game. And what I was so impressed with then, and again observing people in managing conflict, never disrespect the other person, even if somebody's screaming at you. And as NATA president, I had some really loud voices coming at me on several issues. Again, dues increase, name change. We were starting to address the professional degree change to a master's level that recently was implemented. Very, very, very strong emotion, and people very aggressive in their reaction to what I was saying from a podium or just a group conversation. Never ever disrespect the other person in a conflict. Always try to think, why did they feel that way? Or what have I done or not communicated effectively as a leader that makes them react that way to me? Don't put it on them that they're wrong by being aggressive. What have I done, or what can I do to temper that aggressiveness and get them to at least look at some facts or another side of the story? Again, great people in managing conflict, looking at, again, Eve Becker-Doyle, who had to manage volunteers, people like me, board volunteers, members, her staff, and I saw her patience and understanding, trying to understand their viewpoint, never losing patience, and never ever disrespecting the other person. Managing conflict is something that is part of our daily lives, personally and professionally. And again, the skill in managing conflict is truly a lifetime experience. I would love to spend more time with you, but you're probably really bored by now from almost a half hour of a conversation. Know that this experience and relationship that we have is really important to me. And I'm honored to be a part of your lives. During my tenure as NATA president, it was the students and young professionals that really fed me. When the politics bogged me down, every time I would interact with you, you lifted me and brought so much energy to me and such a belief in our profession, where it could go, and a willingness to get on board and make change happen and make our profession of athletic training the best that it can be. And I know that you are those people. And I can't wait to follow your careers, get to know you better, and follow your careers, to see you in leadership positions in our association, to see you effectively managing conflict, and to smile and say, I knew those people, and I'm so proud of them. So again, I hope to get to meet you at district meetings or certainly national meetings, and best of luck to you in your education and in your future leadership as athletic trainers. Thank you.